What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I'm bringing you an update to one of my favourite 5D era decks, and that is the turn of Earthbounds. Now this isn't a direct Earthbound Immortal deck, which is why the title says Earthbound Resonators, as the Resonators will add a little bit more consistency and also utilise the brand new Earthbound Immortal Red Nova a lot more in the strategy to give you a bit more of a fighting edge. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. I'm going to dive headfirst into the profile, show you what we've got, explain why we've got it so you have an idea of how this deck operates. So we're going to start off with the Earthbound Immortals. We're going to be starting off with the brand new Earthbound Immortal Red Nova. Now you can choose to play this at free if you want to, but it does have a very specific effect which should be relatively consistent to produce. So there can only be one Earthbound Immortal monster on the field. During the main phase, quick effect, you get to banish this card from the hand or graveyard to send specifically one Earthbound Immortal monster or a Red Dragon Archfiend from the hand or face-up monster zone to the graveyard, and then apply one of the following effects. So you special summon out one Earthbound Immortal from the deck, or technically an Earthbound, from the deck or extra deck. Or you get to special summon a Red Nova Dragon from your extra deck, and it is treated as a synchro summon. You can only use each effect once per turn. Now the idea is that through this particular type of plays, there's different ways of being able to search this card, both through the Earthbound line when you get access to your Greater Linewalker, and also through the Resonator engine when you do get to Crimson Gaia, as this lets you add a Red Dragon Archfiend or a card that mentions it, so that's how you're going to be able to get to this card. It's obviously going to be a little bit more reliant to make your Red Dragon Archfiend because you're going to have to go into Scarred, synchro off the Scarred, and then get a Red Dragon Archfiend to the field, and that's going to be the easiest way to utilize this, and basically what you're doing is you're upgrading your Red Dragon Archfiend into a Red Nova Dragon. The other Earthbound Immortal I like to use is my personal favourite, and that's Kakapakapoo. Yeah, it gets me every single time too. But this is just more of an aggressive option. I do like how it looks as well, and I love the Earthbounds and the way they they're like the designs. I think the designs are just really kind of cool, and if you've watched the 5Ds era, you kind of see how dominant they are. It really is kind of fun. You can play this as any Earthbound Immortal you want to. You can also play a third Red Nova if you wanted to as well. I just like this as another kind of cool option, but you don't have to play it. For the other Earthbound cards, we do play free Prisoner Stone Sweeper. So this is one that gets you access directly to a field spell. But then on top of that as well, it also puts a Dark in the graveyard for Bestials if you wanted to lean into the Bestial engine a lot more. So if there is a card in the field zone, you get to special on it from the hand. So if you open up multiples, you're going to get a free monster on the board, which can be utilized with loads of your different tuners that you're going to be playing, because you do play level 1 tuners, you also play level 2 tuners, and in some scenarios, you can also play level 3 tuners, which is also quite useful for the deck. What you're going to be using it more times than not is you get to discard this card to add a level 3 or lower Fiend tune-up from the deck to the hand, but you can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except fusions or synchros, which is exactly what you're going to be doing, as you'll see that your extra deck is all going to be fusions or synchros. Then we do play 3 of the Earthbound Prisoner Groundkeeper. This is your ideal starter of the entire deck, which is why we don't play any of the Resonator or Soul Resonator, because this is the one you want to get to. You can also get to it through 1-for-1 as well, which is why you want to focus around it a little bit more. So if this card is normal or special, you get to special summon a level 5 or lower Earthbound monster from the deck, except itself. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck except Fusion or Synchros, which is absolutely fine, and you can only use each effect once per turn. Earthbound monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect while there is a card in the field zone. So the card you're going to want to be going to more times than not will of course be your Linewalker. So this is another one of the tuners being a level 3. So if this card is normal or special, you get to add an Earthbound Prison or a Harmonic Synchro Fusion from the deck or graveyard to the hand. If you control a level 6 or higher Earthbound monster, you get to banish this card from the graveyard to target an effect monster your opponent controls that was specialed from the extra deck, shuffle that face-up effect monster into the deck, then your opponent can special on one monster with the same name from their extra deck. So the secondary effect you're going to want to be using less and less depending on what they're trying to summon, but it can be quite useful. More times than not, you're basically using Linewalker to get you access to your Earthbound Prison, as you'll start to see you get additional effects if there is a card in the field zone. So the Earthbound Prison, when this card is activated, you get to target an effect monster your opponent controls, and it gains this effect. While this card is in the field zone, negate the effects of that face-up effect monster while it is on the field. But during the main phase, you get to normal summon an Earthbound monster in addition to your normal summon or set. You can only gain this effect once per turn. If this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect and you have an Earthbound monster in your field or grave, halve your opponent's life points, and if you do, negate the effects of all face-up cards your opponent currently controls. So if they want to get their monster effect back, they need to destroy this, and if they do that, they're going to lose half their life points. So you're basically putting them in a bit of a tight bind, and that's how you're going to work from going into a Stone Sweeper, into a Groundkeeper, into a Linewalker, into the Prison, and then you start getting all of your additional effects as well. For the other Earthbound monster we play is the Earthbound Greater Lion Walker. So this one is if you control a synchro monster or monsters and have a synchro monster in your graveyard, which you will do very easily, you get to special summon this card from the hand. During your main phase, you get to add an Earthbound Immortal monster from your deck or graveyard to the hand, so a pack of poo, or of course you can go for the Red Nova. And then if an Earthbound Immortal monster is normal summoned, while this monster is on the field, you can make your opponent's life points become 3,000. Only use the effect once per turn. Now obviously we're not doing this as a burnout deck, but it just gives you another option, and this is where you can also get to your Red Nova. For the other Earthbound cards, we are playing 3 Earthbound Fusion. This is like the best, most recent card that we received for this entire deck and strategy. So it is a quick play. However, you can only activate it during the main phase unless there is a card in the field zone, so yours or your opponent's. This one lets you fusion summon a Dark Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. During the main phase, if there is a card in the field zone, you get to banish this card from the graveyard to special summon an Earthbound monster from your hand or grave. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except fusion or synchros, which is absolutely fine. And you can only use this effect once per turn. Now, the benefit of this, the fact that it lets you fusion summon any Dark Fusion monster, opens up a little bit more of your aggressive options, and giving you a bit of a preview to the extra deck. Some of the aggressive options that you can utilize would be Guardian Chimera as your generic one. Then, of course, you do have Predaplant Dracostapelia. And if you do get Muddy Muddragon on the field, you can also go into a Grepher Dragon Overlord, but you can also get into this if you already have a Muddy Muddragon on the field as well. So this isn't just the only way to do it, but it's kind of an option that you've got Muddy Muddragon. If you synchro summon it correctly, you can get into this. And then if you don't synchro summon it correctly, you also have Earthbound Fusion that can help you do so. The last kind of Earthbound card we play is the Harmonic Synchro Fusion. So you send one tuner and then one non-tuner from your face-up field to the graveyard to special on both of the following monsters from the extra deck. One synchro monster that can be synchro summoned using those 2 monsters, and then one fusion monster that can also be fusion summoned using those 2 monsters in the graveyard as material. Now keep in mind this is very important because this is a special summon, it's not a synchro summon, which is why the little caveat with the Muddy Muddragon that says if this card is synchro summoned, you can perform a fusion summon. It won't be synchro summoned, you're only going to be special summon it, but the reason you do that is so you can treat it as a replacement for any fusion material named. So you could go for a Red Eyes Dark Dragoon if you played more Bestials, because that would get you a dragon on the board, and your Muddy Muddragon would then become Dark Magician. You cannot special summon from the extra deck the turn you activate this except fusions or synchros, which again is absolutely fine. Moving on to the Resonator engine, we've gone with 2 Vision Resonator. So this one is just purely if your level 5 or higher Dark is on the field, you get to special summon it. And then if it is sent to the graveyard, you get to add a spell trap that mentions Red Dragon Archfiend. So that's how you're going to work your way into Crimson Gaia. And then Crimson Gaia will get you into the Red Nova. So the idea is that you're trying to use this with a level 6, or you're going to be trying to use it with a level 5 to open up the door to get into your Synchro level 7s, being your Earthbound cards. You can also consider, which is one card that I am looking at, is putting in the Gen X. And the reason I like putting the Gen X in is it requires a Dark Tuner, which is very easy to do, and then you get more benefits depending on the attributes you're going to have in the grave. More times than not, this particular deck will only have Darks in the grave, so you're going to limit yourself a little bit unless you're playing at different hand traps, but it is something you could look into if you do, like myself, like the Gen X Synchro monster. For the other Resonators, we do play the 1 Synchron Resonator, 2 Resonator calls to try and get you access to your Vision Resonator, just because your Vision Resonator will be a 2-in-1, but if you already see a Vision Resonator, you just go for your Synchron Resonator, and this becomes an extender that helps you make your Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, and then that sets off giving you your Red Dragon Archfiend for your Red Nova. Then as another small synchro package, we do play the 1 Psy Reflector, Assault Beast, and Assault Mode. Now the biggest issue with this particular engine is you only really want to get to your Psy Reflector. You don't really want to normal summon it. You want to be summoning it out of the deck with something like an emergency teleport. But then it also means you have to play bricks in the form of the Assault Beast and the Assault Mold, which aren't ideal to draw. But this just gives you the option to go into Synchro level 8s. It can work its way into Synchro level 7s. I'm just trying to get the right... So this one lets you increase it by up to 4. So you can make it a 5 and a 4 to make you a Synchro level 9. You can make it a 1 and a 4. So let me just double check this one. So you reveal Assault Mode in the hand, then target one monster in your graveyard that mentions it, except Psy Reflector, special summon it, and if you do increase the level, yeah. So you can make your Assault Beast up to a 5, 6, 7, or 8. So that then opens up the door to get into Synchros 9s, 8s, 7s, and 6s, and then obviously it can work its way all the way down to at least a Synchro 5. More times than not, you go into like a Synchro 6, and that's how you're going to get to Muddy Muddragon. But you can also work your way into a Synchro level 8, and that's how you're going to be able to get into a Red Dragon Scarred Archfiend and work off the back of that. Just as another note as well, the reason that we've got 2 E-Tellies is technically you can also get access to your Ghost Ogre. So it's one of the ones that it's kind of a cool hand trap for this particular format, but it can also become an extender for you as well. So a level 3 tuner, and then again, if they were to destroy this, negate this or whatever, but you're still able to get Assault Beast back to the field, or you have to hard normal summon down the Assault Beast, you've got the ability to still get into a Synchro level 7. It might make it a little bit awkward because some of your Synchro level 7s are a little bit more specific, but you can start looking at other different options, especially when you start going into the extra deck for fusion monsters and synchro monsters. As long as they are all non-tuners, or what you're trying to produce are non-tuners, that can also open up the door to synchro plays. It also gives you the option as well, going back to wherever it may be, your Stone Sweeper, that if you do hard open the field spell, or if you have access to the field spell, this plus E-Telly then gets you into your Synchro level 8, which also then facilitates your Red Dragon Archery and your Scarred Red Dragons and so on and so forth. Then for the other hand traps, we're playing pretty much the staples Ash Blossoms. 2 Bestials, like if you are not a fan of Bestials, you can cut them out completely. They can become Effect Veilers, they can become a 3rd E-Telly and a 3rd Ghost Ogre. You can become a 2nd Psy Reflector. It really is up to you. But what the Bestials can add to this board or add to the field is it can open up the door to more easier access to your Synchros. Because remember, 6 and then your Earthbounds are level 1s and level 3s. 3's less relevant unless you're going to be playing the Virtual World Shen, which can be a kind of cool meta option. If most of the decks need their cards to go from field to grave and you put Shen on the field, that makes it a little bit more awkward for them to navigate. But the idea is that behind this, your Bestial can work its way, and then if you wanted to play an Assault Synchron, is another kind of card you consider to open up more access to your level 8 Synchros. For the last of the hand traps, playing triple Infinite Impermanence. And then we're playing just one of the staple cards of Call by the Grave and 1-for-1, because 1-for-1 can work you into your Psy Reflector, but it can also work you into your Earthbound ground, and that's how you're going to be able to get the combo started and build on from there. So you can flex this deck up a little bit more if you wanted to. You can cut down the Psy Reflector engine completely and then go for something more like the Bestials. You can go for more Resonators if you wanted to. You can go for less Resonators. It just kind of gives you a bit of a flexibility depending on what you want to look for. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the fusions and then I'll show you the synchros. So for the fusions, obviously we've got the Grepher Dragon Overlord of the Dark World. This is basically by using any Dark Monster and then you turn your Money Mud Dragon into Grepher, which is what you're going to be working for. Dracus Depelia and Guardian Chimera, pretty much already talked about those. And then for your Earthbound monsters, we've got the one Yugioh Gremlina. So this just requires 2 Earthbound monsters, one Earthbound monster and a Dark Monster. So probably the most easy accessible of all of them. And then you can work your way into your Yugioh Kraken, which requires 2 Earthbounds. And then you can also work your way into the Yugioh Grasher, which requires an Earthbound Fusion and an Earthbound Synchro. So it does get a little bit more specific on how you're going to be going for it. This is going to be more easily accessible when you activate Harmonic Synchro Fusion to get you a Fusion and a Synchro on the board. And then, of course, you'd activate your Earthbound Fusion, which will then work your way into the Yugioh Grasher. For the Synchro monsters, of course, we'll go over the Earthbounds first. So you're only going to be playing 2 Earthbound Synchros in the form of the Yugioh Gremlina and, of course, the Yugioh Griffin. So you can play 2 Yugioh Griffin if you want to. I probably should talk about the fusion effects first, actually, to give you a bit more information. So if this card is special, you get to add an Earthbound monster from your deck to the hand. You get to target a Dark Synchro monster you control, and it can attack directly this turn. If a monster or monsters your opponent controls is destroyed by an Earthbound card, except during a damage state, you get to target one of those destroyed monsters, and then inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack. Your Kraken has the ability that if it is special summoned, you get to add a field spell from the deck or grave to the hand, which is quite important. And then if a monster is specialed to your from your opponent's extra deck, except during a damage state, you get to destroy as many monsters your opponent controls as possible that was special summoned this turn. If you do, inflict 800 damage to your opponent for each monster. You can only use each effect once per turn. And then your Yugioh Grasher must be fusion summoned, and at the start of the damage step, if this card battles a monster, you change that monster's attack and defense to 0. And then if a monster or monsters in your opponent's possession is destroyed by battle or card effect, you get to destroy all cards your opponent controls. You can only use this effect once per turn. And then if this face-up card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you get to special summon an Earthbound monster from the deck or extra deck. And then for the synchros of the Yugioh Gremlina and the Yugioh Griffin, so this requires a Dark Tuner and then 1 or more non-tuners. So this is obviously going to be one of your more easier ones to get to, because obviously you've got the level 5 Earthbound plus the level 1. And then this one is a level 8, so it gets a little bit more awkward, but it's still very easily doable because it requires a Dark Tuner, and that's where your Psy Reflector can come into play. So this one is during the main phase, you get a quick event to target face-up monster your opponent controls. Your opponent chooses one of the effects to apply. Destroy that monster, or you, as the Earthbound player, you gain life points equal to that monster's attack. During the battle phase, you get a quick effect to fusion summon an Earthbound fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing its materials from the hand, field, and or graveyard. You can only use each effect once per turn. And then this one is a quick effect. You get to special summon an Earthbound monster from the graveyard in defense, except itself. Also, you can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except fusion or synchros. And if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, you get to destroy a card on the field and then inflict damage to your opponent for each Earthbound monster with different names in your field and or graveyard. So I know I try to stay away from the burn, like we're not using the burn as an OTK win con or an FTK win con. The idea is that they are an option to help you out. And then for the generic synchros, before we move on to the Red Dragon cards themselves, I play the one Muddy Mud Dragon, the one Bestial Dispatter, and the one FA Dawn Dragster. You don't have to focus on the Dawn Dragster because there are some times where it's not ideal to make, but it's just one of the ones that is kind of a cool card right now, especially with Crystron's making it more and more popular. You do need to be a little bit careful when you're starting to look at different attributes like light in comparison to darks, but it's just an option that you can make that can be quite restricted to your opponent. And then for the Red Dragon Synchros, of course, we do play the one Scarred. The idea is what you want to do is you want to get a level 1 tuner, synchro your Scarred off into the Hot Red Archfiend, and then your Abyss will then, your Scarred would then trigger to give you your Red Dragon Archfiend, and then you utilize the Red Nova Earthbound in order to get rid of your Red Dragon Archfiend, so you don't need to worry about its end effect of destroying all your cards, and then work it into a Red Nova Dragon. So as Red Nova Dragon is probably one that is less commonly used, this one gains 500 attack for each tuner in your graveyard, and it can't be destroyed by the opponent's card effects. So keeping in mind when you're looking at all your tuners, you've got all of your hand traps, so Ash Blossom and Ghost Ogre, and then if you do play Effect Veiler, then you have that as an option. And then when you're starting to look at your Earthbounds, you've also got to keep in mind you've got your Synchron Resonator, you've got your Psy Reflector, you've got your Vision Resonator, and then, of course, you've got your Line Walker, and, of course, you've got your Ground Keeper. So you've got plenty of tuners that will be in the graveyard by the time you get to this, which makes this incredibly powerful for a very good push for an OTK, or very good push for a strong all-out monster. So when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you get to target the attacking monster, banish this card, and if you do, negate that attack. And once per turn, during the end phase, if this card was banished by its own effect, you get to special summon this banished card. Now, obviously, it's very rare that that effect will ever come into play, but the idea is you want to be working your way into this as an aggressive all-out, but then you also make your way into this going first, because then it means your opponent has to get rid of this before they go to the battle phase, otherwise this will then be able to dodge, protect, and then float itself back to the field. So that's pretty much it for the entire profile to give you a bit of an insight into how the deck works. Hopefully, if you do have any questions, by all means, put them in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them. It is a very, very fun deck. I'm not saying that this is going to topple the meta, but it's definitely one of them decks that if you are an Earthbound fan, if you are a 5Ds fan, and you wanted to see one updated version of, like I think the last time I did a profile on this was like a year ago. So we finally got a bit more new support. I thought it'd be good to update it as well. It is a very, very fun deck for me. I do like kind of playing this when I get a chance to at a casual locals. And yeah, with the new Earthbound Immortal Red Nova, it kind of added a bit more spice to either a Red Dragon Archfiend deck in general, or of course just the Earthbound deck. And I thought this would be a good showcase to show you what it can do and how it can work. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, the whole 9 yards. Any questions, comments below, happy to answer them. For now, as always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.